It's a
Okay.
pleasure to be reading for the Woodstock Poetry Society. The first time I ever did a featured reading was for the Woodstock Poetry Society in 2003. I'm going to start off with some recent unpublished work, and then I'll read some from the book. Removing Her. I took down the photos I had hung to help her remember who she had been. Seeing them every day after she was gone deepened my sadness. She had filled her house with things she loved: paintings, Navajo pottery, colored glass cologne bottles shaped like cars, a long antique bathtub to match her height. When I took down her heavy little rug that covered the circuit box, I left it on the floor and replaced it with my movie poster. I don't often use the light box I bought to dispel her winter blues, but I keep it to remind me of the kindness we exchanged so often for so long. Occasionally I turn it on, imagining I can see something of her in its blinding light. After her clothes had gone to the free store, I replaced her old furnace. I hadn't realized the familiar roar would leave with it. Shadows of Stories. Everything happened so long ago I hardly remember. Shards of images intrude as I look at a blank wall. The museum plaques say memory, memory, but the curator forgot to show time and date and even the artist's name. Last week I bought a painting so blank it looked at first like just two blocks of subdued color. When I looked more closely, it was teeming with life, irregularities on the surface suggesting shadows of stories. As I listened carefully, it even whispered a few syllables. I have surrounded myself with things to preserve the past, but there is only the present, projected onto a plaster wall, only fragments, clear for moments. A couple of years ago, Michael Platsky recommended the Woodstock poet Dan Proper to me, but he said I'd never find a book of his. Well, he was wrong. I did find one. And in it, I found something that I found really striking, which was he'd written a contemporary psalm. I liked the idea so much, I started writing a series of them, and here are a few of my, what I call cynical psalms. Psalm of Cannibalism. Quote, my foes come upon me to eat up my flesh. Psalm 27. O Lord, why have you arrayed against me flesh eaters who seek to lift up my head off my body and simmer the remainder in precious oils and spices? Surely you must have more say over who enters your domain. So why do you allow such beings to scare me shitless? Do you seek to cooperate with my foes by improving my flavor and nutritional value? I implore you, confine my potential terrors to movies I don't have to watch. And if you must populate this earth on which I live with cannibals, at least don't set me up on some damn rocks where I'll be an easy target. Think of my poor wife and children. And please, don't suggest I take refuge in any of those damn tabernacles of yours. You know about the dangerous characters who hang out there. Psalm of Confession. O Lord, to thee I freely confess my sins, that I may be absolved and go forth to sin no more. But wait, what's the point of giving up all my iniquitous ways if I can get to stay out until 5 a.m, drinking Guinness and coming on to lonely women, of making snide comments to people I'm superior to, of cheating on my taxes, when all I have to do is confess and be forgiven? Worse yet, if I give up all my bad behavior, what am I going to write about? Nobody wants to read about the activities of a goody-goody. Memoirs of the righteous don't sell for shit. Even the shelves of religious bookstores are overflowing with tales of redemption from sin recounted in gruesome detail. Oh Lord, I may even have to beg you to forgive me in advance today. My favorite band is playing tonight in a bar downtown, and I know I will see a nice little crowd of hot women turned on by the music and looking for some action. So tell me, Lord, would you have me beg you to deprive me of my sight, or is it okay for me to react to what I see? Do I get a free pass for a night of drinking too much and swirling happily among naked thighs, as long as I promise to tell the whole ugly story, infused with a proper degree of remorse? Psalm of Extinction. O Lord, who remainest above all things, who scatters stars so far that even our biggest telescopes cannot see them, you have created puny little us and given us just enough brain so that we have dominion over all things, all life on earth, from microbes to whales. Big mistake, O Lord, for you have omitted to give us a conscience. Are you not aware of what a mess we've made of things? You may have created all kinds of life in just about every damn place you can think of. We haven't found anything living in molten lava yet, but knowing your skills, I wouldn't put it past you. But look at what a grand job you've done of making us capable of killing just about anything. At any rate, it won't be long before we follow our victims into extinction. O Lord, we pray, those of us who can see what we're doing, that you take away that dominion you so carelessly granted us. Give it to the fish or even the bugs. They can't help doing a better job than we do. They might even be able to save our sorry asses. Psalm of Fat. Quote, entrenched in their fat, their mouths utter arrogant claims. Psalm 17, Jerusalem Bible. Oh Lord, how painful to conceive of that chocolate-covered macaroon sitting peacefully in the display case as an avatar of evil. But there it is, yet more fat, awaiting its opportunity to entrench me in its life-shortening mass, inhibiting my motion, slowing my progress toward my personal delusion of enlightenment. How sweet, O Lord, are thy deceptions, flavorful landmines, icing my path with uncountable distractions and hazards to my health. Free me, O Lord, I pray, from the constant temptations of New Zealand licorice and green tea ice cream. Lead me instead, O Lord, in the path of righteousness and romaine lettuce, without detours for pizza and beer. My scale cries out to thee for relief from its burden of me, likewise the waistline of my pants. I may not have reached the breaking point of extra fare for airline tickets, but, oh Lord, the taste of that flourless chocolate cake is a worse temptation than a room full of naked, eager women. And here's another recent poem. I think you may recognize the topic of this poem. I used to see his face every time I emptied the garbage can, glaring up from the bottom, or staring up from the toilet bowl, fumbling around in the cat box for something that would make my day even bleaker. After a while, seeing him on the news made no impact unless he was slapping an immigrant baby or closing a medical clinic permanently. He is relegated to nightmare, as if he had died suddenly and been buried on Mars. Even those who carried his flag seem to be drifting. A bad dream has ended in a way that flushes itself and unclogs the pipes at the same time, providing new food for eels. Now I'm going to read a selection from Losing Tara. The idea for this book didn't come from me, actually. It came from the woman who ran a caregivers group, Judith Bromley, who, when I told her I'd been writing poems about my experiences with my wife's long illness, suggested I bring one in and read it to the caregiver group. And since they liked it, I read a couple more for them. And then she suggested, wouldn't that make a good book? It might be helpful to others. So I put together the results of about a decade of observing and writing, and it became the book Losing Tara. Tara died in October of 2018 after a 10-year siege with Alzheimer's disease. Erosion. You told me once soaking the porcelain lining of your antique bathtub would damage it. After every bath, you would wipe it carefully with your towel, a task now left to me, the one who remembers things. Strange to think that water hurt something meant to contain it, the way I, meant to contain your love, am now eroding. Old times. But then, when the lights go off, it's like old times. The dark covers confusion. The quiet makes memory unnecessary. The dogs sigh. Cars whir in the distance. All we need to do is find our way to sleep, and that is easy. We still remember good night and I love you too, and life needs nothing else until morning. Missing. Someone put handfuls of dog kibble on the kitchen floor while you weren't watching. It wasn't her, she'll insist. Someone dropped a whole roll of toilet paper into the toilet, twice this week. By now, you don't even miss seeing her at the computer writing until midnight. You don't remember her smile when she came home. Or if you do, it's like something that happened before you were born, dimly recalled from a previous life. You don't miss her bringing you another glass of champagne and saying, "Not yet, wait until the dogs have gone to sleep." You don't miss her driving for hours, smiling the whole time, knowing the seashore is at the end of the road. But it bothers you when she refuses to take off her gloves indoors, puts one coat on over another, doesn't notice the piss in her diapers, the way she fumbles trying to leash the dogs, to unlock the door, to put on her shoes. It's okay, you tell her. We're old, we all need help. She falls asleep quietly and lies snoring like an idling truck. You keep earplugs beside the bed. Making love in the afterlife. I can remember the naked woman wanting to be in my arms, but it's a faint memory, like the night the Brooklyn Dodgers won the series. Going over the edge of a waterfall in a barrel, touches powered by someone else's excitement. Is losing everything the true outline of life? Today, I was removing a diaper, washing sheets in hot water. What will happen tomorrow? Forgetting my own name? Will I forget how to write as she did? Lose my dogs, my friends? As for that naked woman, she is a myth, a distant vision halfway to the moon. Forecast. It's senseless to look so hard at what is coming, to scrutinize the clouds, the leaves. Sending the alarm 5 minutes to hear the detailed forecast, where hail fell, where locusts swarmed, the temperature yesterday at Death Valley, all to decide what kind of sleeves to protect her with. I look hard at the clouds over her head, gauge how often she mistakes no for yes. Today's forecast calls for sunny and mild, but only in September's context. Inside, even September is long gone. It's late December and night is falling fast. Abandon. Sitting blank-faced in the hospital recliner, are you relieved to escape the effort of saying yes or no, of walking, of picking up the spoon? Back home, my life is full of your chair, your favorite movies, your necklaces, visits from neighbors. I don't know how to do this. how to talk to all our relatives and friends and tell them you are breathing. Suddenly you could not walk. Suddenly you could not come home. The dogs might never see you again. Tomorrow, I will tell you the dogs are fine. A lie. Feeding. All I wanted was your shining eyes, your fingers, your lips, looking out the window at you and the birds, your cousins, and the harmony you radiated like June's sun. All I wanted was to see you measuring dog food, baking potatoes, you on the other end of the phone in Hawaii, watching you dress in the morning, becoming a public person whose privacy you gave to me. I wanted the smell of your breath. Often I lay quietly in the morning just to hear you breathe. Maybe it is only fair that now you watch me do all those things you did, maybe not so well, but since you can't say the dogs' names, it may be a great relief to see me feeding them, and you. This one has an epigram from Robert Haas. Pleasures. Our words are clear and our movements give off light. I am so happy to recall never taking you for granted. Not the pleasures we shared, not the problems we solved. I always treasured all of it. Each of those hundreds of times that we made love, each touch of your soft mouth, the tastes of every area of you, the constant sense of shock I felt that I was still your chosen one. The way our minds would blend, deciding what to make for supper or what movie we would see. If we were going to Peru, we did. What dog we would adopt. Important choices, thrilling choices. All that excitement must be what makes it so easy to remember ecstasy. Even today, when what I need to do is help you to the bathroom, where I can put the new med patch upon that shoulder I so loved to run my rough lips across. Recoupling. So there we were that night in my house for the first time in 2 months because we had split up, but then our friend Charlie came to visit and he said to each of us, you two are crazy, you belong together. And we decided he was right. So later we talked and she came over and we kissed and she said, did you do it with anyone else? And I said, no. Did you? Never mind. I don't care. And she said, I didn't. And she started to take off her clothes and we rushed over to the couch and we lay down and we did it very fast, not like usual. And then we lay on the couch smiling and touching, and then it started up again. And this time we did it a little slower, but still pretty quick by our standards. And then we got dressed again and I made supper and we watched a movie and we went to bed and we did it again, this time like usual, starting very slow, but knowing it was going all the way. And it took so long that when we were finished, we fell asleep with her dog at our feet. Yes, the dog was there all along. And when we woke up, we didn't have any clothes. It wasn't a game anymore, and we did it again and really took our time. And then we got dressed and took the dog out for a walk, and then I made breakfast and we ate and smiled a lot. And then she went off to her house to work and I stayed at my house to work. And then in the evening we went out to eat and then came back to her house and walked the dog and read for a while and then went to bed, getting into our night clothes and then getting out of them. And we did it with all the delicious excitement of our usual best and talked for a long time before we fell asleep. And in the morning, we still weren't dressed, so we did it again. And we had our work days, and then we went to the movies and went back to her house, and we didn't have to do it again because by that time, we were convinced. This was the last one I wrote while she was still alive. Her. Currently. Once I delighted in awakening to the light first. I would lie quiet and watch it creeping through the window, reflecting off her cheek. I would wait for signs of life, knowing that love would enter her eyes as they met mine. It was a time of joy. And it was long ago. Today, as I entered the room where she lies quiet, most mornings she opens her eyes as I arrive, but they remain hazy. Her lips still answer mine when I kiss her. She listens as I recite the morning prayers she once chose for us to say together. Around us, may it be beautiful. She needs stronger hands than mine to help her rise, to help her walk her few steps, to clean and dress and feed her. Words have left her gaping in their wake. Some days, there seems to be nothing behind those vacant eyes. Even as she waits for someone to bring the teacup to her lips, her eyes stay on me as I read poems to her. When I sit next to her and hold her hand, she squeezes in sporadic patterns. She always looks at me as I leave the room. We have to guess so much. She seems encased in clay. But when I lower the head of her hospital bed, kiss her, and turn to leave the room, her eyes close quietly even before I turn out the light. Thank you.
That was Leslie Gerber. Very good. Let me all can unmute if you want to say something to Leslie. We'll take a little break between features. I'm trying to go ahead amongst yourselves. I'm just trying to. Someone on the phone wants to connect, so I'm dealing with that.
Leslie, those kill me every time.
Leslie, I like your line, a distant vision halfway to the moon. That one was nailed. And the, well, I can't read my own writing here, but something gaping or something gaping. Anyway.
Words leave her gaping in their wake. I think.
Yes, thank you. I can't read my own handwriting anymore, but very powerful.
Yeah, Leslie, thank you so much. This was amazing, just amazing. I lost my husband in 2012 and working on a memoir about it. But the last poem, second to the last poem that you did about making love over and over again until, what was the line? You didn't have to convince yourselves anymore?
Yeah, they were convinced.
Oh.
Until we were convinced.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were until
I love the ones about beautiful. But I also was very struck by the cynical Psalms. Totally different mood, but really wonderful. I'd like to try now writing a few myself, so you've inspired me.
Good. Well, I got inspiration from another poet, so I'm glad I passed it on.
I thought the Torah poems were just beautiful and splendid, Leslie. Very moving and very sad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, very poignant.
I'm thinking I might ask Mary Bisbee why she didn't answer you. So I think she's missing something. I bet. Next time I write her.
Good. Thank you.
Hard act to follow, my dear.
Yeah.
Well, you have to.
You'll do.
I know.
Shall we resume? Judith Kerman is our next.
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm going to mute all and then highlight, spotlight, as it were, Judith Kerman. Please welcome Judith Kerman.
Hi. Well, this is not quite a book launch because the book isn't coming out until the 17th. But this is the next book. And it is called Definitions, and it pretends to be definitions. Every poem in it, in some way or other and in different ways, is pretending to be a dictionary definition. And they all have like the syllables if it's more than one syllable word, and the phonetic spelling, and even the back which has a definition of blurb before the blurbs. So I had a lot of fun with this. My publisher, Mark Estrin at Fomite, suggested some of these little fine tunings. And the cover art is by a woman named Katie McCann. And this is just the perfect cover to me. So I'm going to start with some of the poems in definitions. There are, I don't know, about 53 of them. That's the table of contents. And it runs from A to Z and then back to A. So the structure of the book is a palindrome. The epigraph from my friend Robert McDonough. I love English. There are so many things you can do with it. I'll just start with the first one, and I'm just going to dip in and skip through, but I'll read them in the order in which they're in the book, which I find fun to do. This first one is called Air, which can be a noun or a verb. 1. Walk out and breathe deeply. Fresh scent of pine, leaf mold, rain coming. In August, first drops on road dust. 2. A lovely song, fresh and light, sometimes with variations. An aria. I fill my lungs trying to feel my back ribs stretch for a full breath, an extended phrase. 3. Put it out for broadcast. We need more of it, flushing the dark rooms where politicians plot. 4. In winter, it bites. So that gives you an idea of the most typical structure of these. And the next one is called blues, which is an adjective or a noun. 1. Shards of sky fallen from some nest. 2. Early Picasso. 3. Gainsborough's beautiful boy, satin and lace. 4. Indigo, a dye stuff grown by slaves sweating in the sun. 5. I remember new denims too stiff to wear before washing. Now blue jeans are a luxury item. The more tattered, the better. 6. Truck driver language. 7. An old man, blue-black, his voice a carpenter's rasp. His calloused fingers talk to steel strings. He knows all about grief, betrayal. Come back, sweet mama, come back. 8. Mondays. Elephant. Noun. 1. What no one in the room wants to talk about. 2. A large gray stone, heavy in the hand. 3. Handicap, ugliness, bigotry, death. 4. Being blind, feeling your way around obstacles by touch, by smell. 5. Not a donkey. 6. The circus handlers urge their beasts to turn using big hooked sticks. It helps to have a thick skin, rough as tree bark. 7. They live in matriarchy, hold wakes for their dead. I should mention that a filmmaker named Nancy Rodwin is going to do a video of this. So I have to get it properly recorded on some good piece of equipment. Fix. 1. The cat yowls all night, rolls, stretches fore and aft. Time to take her to the vet. 2. We used to spend all night in the red light of the dark room watching images float up in the chemical bath. Digital makes it so convenient, but I miss the smell, the surprises. 3, surgical consult, second surgical consult, physical therapy, acupuncture, turmeric, oxycodone, medical marijuana. 4, a room full of big men with cigars, a quiet conversation over martinis or on the golf course. I decided to put my own name in this book. So this is Judith. 1, it was a popular name for babies in the 40s, maybe because of The Wizard of Oz. Greatly declined since 1960. 2, Judy is diminutive of Judith, Hebrew, she will be praised, feminine of Judah. I was named for my uncle Jonathan, who died at the Bulge, but his Hebrew name was Yaakov. 3, did Cary Grant ever say, Judy, Judy, Judy? 4, a book of the Apocrypha. In a Jan Massige painting, he holds aloft the severed head of Holofernes, dripping blood. This is really the first one of these I ever wrote without knowing that it was going to be a form that I was going to pay attention to. The story is actually told in the poems. I won't tell the story, but the word is metaphor. And it is a noun from the Greek metaphora, which I got in there in the Greek letters. 1, carriage, freightage, traction, traffic, a sign on the side of a moving van in Athens. Bexes, beds, bureaus, boxes of books. 2, the young tomcat tracks birds in the branches. His haunches prepare for launch. 3, I fold and float paper boats. I'm just going to skip forward a bit. Politics. 1, yowling cats on either side of a glass door. 2, knives in a blacked out room. 3, a chicken yard. Red and black hens peck, squawk, and flutter. No hawk in sight. 4, a man, a bulldozer, and a tree. Folk saying. 5, 50 years of a bad marriage. Unspeakable. 1, once, perhaps, unsayable or unpronounceable, but word meanings drift. 2, the name of God in Hebrew. 3, in many cultures, private, unshared, personal names. 4, your grandfather's name when you're trying to pass. 5, racial slurs, especially spoken by people in power, that used to be everyday expressions. 6, more recently, despicable, horrifying, as in the forcible separation of children from their parents. I think I'll just read one more from here and then a couple of new things from a new collection that I'm putting together, which I'm going to wait at least a year or two to seriously try to bring out, because there is such a thing as too many books too close together. This is Vector, which in some ways is pretty technical, but also political. 1, direction, like the flight path of an arrow or poisoned dart, a mathematical abstraction. 2, computers were invented to chart the trajectory of artillery. Only later were they used to track money. In computer graphics, vectors calculate a shape. Raster graphics have a space in memory for every pixel, like the retinas of our eyes. 3. The threat is invisible. Not mice and rats, but they're fleas, lice, tick nymphs the size of poppy seeds, doorknobs, and elevator buttons. 4. Half the carriers have no symptoms, like Typhoid Mary defiantly cooking for strangers. They go out in the street, unmasked, insouciant, crowds at the beach in their bikinis, young men elbow to elbow at the bars. 5. The threat is like carbon monoxide when the air in the house feels fresh, transparent, but the furnace guy says, "You could have woke up dead." And maybe just one more of these, because it's the first one that I wrote knowing I was using the form. It was a response to a challenge from some fellow poets at a conference. And one of the prompts was to write a poem that pretends to be a dictionary definition, although the word doesn't have to be a real word. Well, this is a real word, but because you are not seeing it in front of you, I will tell you that each section is a terrible pun on the title, which is Apocalypse. 1. The ruined temple of the goddess Calypso, once the center of her cult. Located at the highest point of the city Calypsos, of which she was patroness, destroyed during a 50-year war with a neighboring city-state. The sun has blasted the bas-reliefs of her warrior kings. So that's Acropolis. 2. A scrubby tree of semi-arid regions with gray-green foliage and a peculiar but pleasant pungency, often used in dry flower arrangements. The main food of Ursus tedius, a small plush-furred quadruped. They sit in pairs among the branches, endlessly grooming each other. Obviously, eucalyptus. 3. A type of speech impediment characterized by excessive sibilance, thought to have been the sound made by certain ancient prophetesses when under the influence of their deity. So, lisp. 4. A set of books containing the names omitted or expunged from the New York telephone directory, held by certain groups to be the true record of the population. On sacred occasions, the names are read out in the city square. And that, of course, is Apocrypha. That was great fun. It came to me in an instant, and I won the prize, which was a book of funny poetry. Now, I want to finish up with a few things from the new book. Like a lot of my books, it contains some things from the definitions. But it's called GIMP, and it's about disability and age and aging and such like. And this is a poem called Brigade. Like the caissons we roll, pushing walkers, waving canes, the angry old, the gimps. Once we strode along sidewalks, hiked mountains, ran upstairs. By day, we paged through catalogs, considering powered wheelchairs and adapted vans, but we're not ready for that. We push and limp, pump and lift in gyms. By night, we dream of storming the beaches. This is a true poem. It's called Call Button. In the hospital, if you want something, you have to use the call button. They can't read your mind, and anyway, they're busy. That's true, they're understaffed, so they're always busy. When I go to the hospital, I'm afraid if I use the call button, I will be seen as a nuisance. Or maybe I will be a nuisance. I'm also afraid no one will respond. My sense of helplessness in the hospital is exaggerated. No, not exaggerated, because of course it's true. I'm helpless, and I depend on someone responding to the bell. And often enough, well, usually they do, but it's in the category of soon or later. From my bed, I can hear staff chatting at the nurse's station, the wheels of the nurse's computer carts, call bells ringing. Is one of them mine? The system may be set up so that I can't tell whether anybody has seen the bell light or knows what's going on here. The system may be set up so that I can't tell whether anybody has seen the bell light or know whether anyone is coming. When the aide comes and goes away to do what I need done, I don't know the outcome. And before the outcome arrives, I usually end up pushing the call button again. And just one more, which is a rather different mood. This is about pottery, and specifically the work of Otto and Viveka Haino. It's called Haino's Weed Pot. Otto threw pots as big as pumpkins until he died at 94, long after Viveka, who'd done the glazes. I bought one for my mother when I was 22, with swirling splashes of black on stoneware blushed by applewood. Mom gave it back when she moved to Florida. Otto was still throwing pots. I have another one, the size of a man's fist, unglazed, undated, like a cobble in a river. Its flaring tiny trumpet purses sucking an opening large enough for 2 blades of grass, a skeleton of Queen Anne's lace. Thank you. The book will be out the 17th of May, and you can get it from me if you would like it.
So how do we get it from you?
You're
from, I know that you're up in Woodstock, right?
I'm up in Woodstock. I run a press called Mayapple Press, although I don't publish my own books. But you can look at mayapplepress.com.
Yeah. I actually was up there once for a reading that you did. Everyone was shocked that a stranger showed up. It was a workshop you had a few years ago.
Oh my goodness, yes, we're still doing this.
Yeah, you had Jessica DeConnick and I can't remember the names, but anyway, it was fun.
We're still doing those, although last year we did it all on Zoom. And it spawned 3 workshops still going on.
I have a friend who loves anything to do with language. So I think she would really love that book.
Thank you.
So yeah, May 17th. Okay.
Good work, Judith. Absolutely. Smart and moving. Yeah. Show the book again. And
if you go to judithkerman.com, which is my poets page, there's a link to a button that would allow you to buy it. And
why don't you send that as a chat to everyone, your website?
I had forgotten that.
It's nice the way a lot of the poems are structured.
Scott, you're breaking up.
Scott, you're breaking up.
Judith?
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed the definitions, but you have to really, you have to really listen to them very carefully because, that each thing you say, it sort of stays in my mind a bit. And then you have another thing. And I really enjoyed today hearing some of the ones I'd heard before because I heard new things in them.
Thank you. You gave me feedback on one of the GIMP poems that's going into the book.
Good.
Back some years ago when we were still meeting at the Walk and Roll.
Well, the title is great. I mean, I love it. That's just nail it.
There's some software out there called GIMP. Do you know about that? Yeah, it's a graphics program that runs on. It's a free, open source software. I don't know if that is relevant to your book, but great title.
I certainly use a lot of software, so.
Right.
I also think the cover of your book is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Show the back too. The blurbs. That's very funny. The blurbs. That's very funny.
Yeah, everything except my name. On the front cover, my name doesn't have a definition, but in the back, it does. Proper noun, a poet, clown, singer, and artist in multiple media. 10 books or chapters of poetry. That's the definition of Judith Kerman on the back of the book.
That's good. Very clever and smart. Yeah, nice work.
And I bought the artwork.
Oh, you have the original.
Yeah.
There you go.
Reminds me, that picture reminds me of a kind of multimedia piece that a good friend of mine made. She took heads, such as heads that a beautician, somebody in a hairdressing salon might use, and she actually embedded things in them. It didn't go out as wildly far from the head as the things in your drawing, but you know, little boxes that maybe with brain and things coming out, and very suggestive in that same kind of wild, whimsical, almost extraterrestrial way of what goes on in the human mind.
Yeah. Well, this is a collage. And Katie McCann has a website, and she's done a lot of collages, but this one struck me particularly because there's so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I also related to your poem about your name because it's my name as well. And I was happy to see that it took you quite a while to get to the apocryphal story of Judith and Holofernes, because that's what most people focus on, and they sort of shudder thinking that to be named that. But you started out with the much more positive things and worked your way around to it, and I enjoyed that.
My last name is in the book too, but it's in the other half. Well, thank you all.
Thank you, Judith. That was Judy Kerman, and reading a lot from definitions, but also from GIMP, and strong work in both respects. So we have an open mic. Let's see, 3, 6, 9, 11 people on the open mic, and I'm gonna. I'll read the names that I have so far, and if there's anybody who wants to join the open mic, they should give me a shout out. So Lisa St. John, Matthew DeLacy Davidson, Daphne Rosenblum, Christina Turzen, Elena Botts. A number of these people I don't think are here, so we might be jumping ahead. Scott Myers, Bruce Weber, William Seaton, Robert Basner, Amy Azunian, Norma Bernstock. So I don't know if Matthew, Daphne, or Christina, or Elena are here, but I do know that Lisa St. John is here. Lisa, you want to talk just so I can pop you in?
I am here.
I'm going to spotlight you.
Thanks.
I'm going to mute everybody and spotlight you.
All right.
Hang on.
Unmuted myself. I didn't see a time limit on this, so I didn't time anything. But
about 5 minutes, maybe.
Okay, perfect. Let's go with. We'll save that one for last. Okay, this is I've been working a lot with Forum lately, and with Annie Finch, and so this is a villanelle called. It's actually an ekphrastic poem, but I didn't want to show the image because hopefully the poem works without it. For the Arts Mid-Hudson Valley exhibition coming up. Rule of thumb. This life is a gentle one if you walk a bit behind the men. This is a world that can be won. Teach your daughters to wear claws and run, or to stay in the predator's pen. This life is a gentle one. Rape is not a hate crime? What then, a hit and run? She was wearing what? Amen. This is a world that can be won. He didn't mean it like that. It was just for fun. Just locker room talk again. This life is a gentle one. A girl's life is not a blind audition or a home run. A scar is a scar is a scar now and then. This is a world that can be won. Unleash words, destroy the hush. Let us run loose in the night as in the day again. This life is a gentle one. This is a world that can be won.